Today we are working on a Volvo C70 and we need to change the driver side front seat belt and the passenger side back seat belt. Important step whenever you're working on anything seat belts. This does tie into the airbag system, so you want to go ahead and remove the negative from your battery just to make sure that the system's not live. Last thing you want is a surprise of an airbag going off. So in order to do this, there's several things that will need to be removed. We'll need to take off the bottom of the back seat, the butt cushion, so that as well as the backrest. And there's a few other pieces that are involved with the back seat belt and a few that are specific to this front seat belt that I will show you in this video. As a start, we've already done this the hard way and we figured that out, so everything's just put in place. We're not going to be removing any of the bolts. We've already done that part just to make it quick and easy for the video. But these are the steps that you'll have to follow to remove the seats and to do the seat belt change for a front seat belt and for the back seat belts. The first step is to take off the butt cushion of the seat. So this cushion has hookup points that are in the bottom corners. You're going to want to push in,
down, in,
and then lift up.
The same on this side. You have to push down, in, and lift up. Then the seat is quite difficult to put out. You have to basically pull it very hard, and then it unclips these parts here. Push in here, and they sit very tight. So you have to pull quite hard to get them out.
And then, as you can see, we have this little frame piece. This is that front part of the seat, and that goes to this hook.
It hooks in there, that holds it in place.
And as you can see in the design of that hook, it goes this way. That's why you have to push back so you can get it out of the hooking part and then come up with it to release it.
And that is the same on the passenger side.
Another thing to mention is that this is a lot easier if you take the roof and put it down. So we did the manual release on that just to have the roof sitting back and out of the way. It makes it so you can actually stand in and get some leverage to work on the seat, and it's a lot easier to maneuver everything in and out with the roof put that way. So now that we have the backrest or the butt cushion removed, it goes on to the backrest part. The first step is the center console piece. We need to remove that, so that can just pull out and that lifts up out of the way. You then have the box that goes to the trunk area. That will need to be removed, and we'll show you how to do that in a separate step on one that is already out of the car.
Now, to remove the backrest is not really very easy. You got to get your hands in the side here, behind the seat. You got to push your fingers in there, and you got to actually rip it out. So when you rip it out, this piece here that was held in come there, and the bottom of the seat here, you cannot get the bottom out first because the bottom of the seat actually locates into these two holes, holding the seat in position. Once it's in there, you got no other way than pulling it out. On the design is like that, where your headrest stays behind. The headrest does not come out with the seat. Similar, this side one has been pulled out already. Taken that out. It works similar. You have to rip it from this side to that side because it comes out there, and then it comes out the two location holes.
Okay, another note while we're in, we have the backrest out. So you can see there are two subwoofers behind the seats. If your Volvo has the Premier sound system, you will have these subwoofers. If it has the standard, they will just be holes that are covered. So that's part of what we're doing on this car, is a swap from the standard to the Premier version. So we've already put in those subs. Okay, so we have the butt cushion removed now, and we have the backrest cushion for the back seat removed. So I know it does seem like a little counterintuitive that we have to take out the back seat in order to do the seat belts, but you do have to do this step even to change a front seat belt, because these covers on the side over there need to be removed, and they're held in on this section by the backrest of the back seat. So in order to take these covers off, you have to take that back seat out. Another note is that the headrest, in order to remove your back headrest, even if it's just a headrest change, you have to take off the back seat. So you can see there's these two little clips that have to be pulled. You can do it on your own like that, where my dad has his fingers there that you can pull those clips and then pull up on the back on the headrest, but it does pull out very difficult. So if you are on your own, it's not an easy removal. It's easier if you have somebody that can release the clips while you pull the headrest. Okay, so we are now at the point where we're moving towards getting the removal of this side panel that you're seeing over here. This whole panel is one unit, and that needs to come off to get to our driver seatbelt. So you can see our seatbelt is broken because it's not pulling back in. So the first thing is we want to go ahead and remove this back seatbelt clip, and there is a sensor that's plugged in there. So make sure you unplug that, take the bolt out and remove that to get it out the way so your whole panel can swing out. The other important thing to note is that this piece up top, as much as it looks like it is a separate piece, it is part of the panel and it is glued in there. So do not be tempted to pry that out. We learned that the hard way.
We did that.
We broke that off. So that's part of that same unit. Do not pry that out. So we have everything out the way. And then you can see at the bottom, the seat belt goes onto a bar over there. So we'll show you the removal of that bar as well.
So are you still on now or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I talk?
Yeah.
To remove this seat belt, you have to undo this screw. This goes through a hole, slides through a hole.
Let me just come around and show that.
This slides through a hole on the driver's seat. You got to get that out. So once you got that out, you can undo the seat belt from it on that side. To remove this back panel, you have to actually start by removing the side panel here, then remove this panel. They all just clip in.
Yeah, so those are all just clips that you'll pry off. So pry off that side panel and this corner piece to get that out the way, and then you are set up to go and remove that panel. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and we've done the steps. We've got these side panels removed there. We've taken the seat belt off that bar that holds it on the seat side. So now we're at the step where we need to remove this big side panel.
This panel, you have to pull out the bottom. Again, it's the same as the seat. It looks easy. It is not. These things are in super tight. So once you got that out, then you lift this panel off. And you do it. There is a wire there that plugs in here that you have to unplug to get this off, and then you have got this piece now that you can just lay down out the way. Your seat belt is in here. You have this piece. If you don't remove it careful, it will just tear apart because it's glued on. You can remove it nicely, and the seat belt is in there. In order to remove that seat belt there, you have to come to the top. Let me just get 3 bolts.
So this top piece is held on by 3 bolts that go into these locations.
So you have to undo these bolts, take that out, and then you can remove that. You can undo the seat belt for that. The reason it doesn't look like it's that important, but once you got the rest of the seat belt out of this part, it needs to slide down in this hole to take the bottom of your belt out.
Okay, so once that's removed, then in our case we will have to feed the seat belt through because it doesn't retract. So we'll have to feed it through the side panel, come all the way out.
Slide it through there. Slide it through there. That is
and
down
then
there.
Feed it down through this hole where we'd remove the guide.
Remove the guide. Then once you got this portion out here and you have unscrewed, you've taken the bolt out of this seat belt, it's got a slide and a lock there. You got to lift it up, slide it out and undo it. Then it's got two sensors. You'll see the yellow sensor goes in there and the other purple sensor goes in there. You got to be very careful. These things break quite easy and they're not easy to take out. You got to squeeze them out and wiggle them out slowly in order not to break them. And that is your seatbelt out.
So that is our seatbelt removal of the front side. To put it back in, we're going to follow all of these steps in reverse using the new unit. Okay, so we have showed how to change the front seat belt. Now, unfortunately, the back is a little bit more complicated. You can see we have this driver side panel and everything removed where we just did the front side. In order to get to either one of the back seat belts, you're going to have to remove the panels on both sides. So on the passenger side, this whole panel, like we showed you, is going to need to be removed. That means the same procedure we just followed with taking out that buckle. And then we have to pry out that panel. The reason why that is important is that this panel is what locks in the piece on this side above the headrest. So you cannot take this piece off until you have removed both panels. So on this side, we're not doing anything with that seatbelt, so we're just putting that panel out the way. Again, pay attention to these plugs that will need to be unplugged. Wires. And obviously on reassembly, make sure you're replugging these wires back in. So our next step now is to remove this piece over here that is behind the headrest. So in order to do this, we have on each side, there's an 8mm bolt right behind where the headrest would go on either side. So those two need to be removed on both sides, which we have done. Then the important next step is to come around. One of the previous people had already done this, but there's a little clip that will need to be released over there so that you can peel this panel back. And inside over there you can see there's an 8mm and another 8mm bolt. So those two bolts will need to be removed from either side as well before this can be done.
Okay, you do not need to remove them all the way because that is slotted and it can slide in. That helps you not to drop them in. We've already done that on both sides.
Alright, so we have that piece done. Then the next part to remove is this box that sits in the middle, and we'll show you how to do that.
Box will need to be removed, and then I've already removed the seat belt from the bottom here. The seat belt is bolted in there, so I have already removed that in order to make it easier for us to get this part completely out the way.
Was there a plastic cover in there too? It looks like it.
Yes.
So you can get that out even with that plastic cover in,
yes,
like you see on the driver's side.
Yeah.
So now we have that piece completely removed, and then we can move on to that box that gives you access to the trunk. So next up is removing this box that gives you access to the trunk.
So this box, there's 4 Torx screws. I think it's Torx 30 that you need to remove this. This has got the back piece in it that holds this as a unit. In order to get this box out, you need to split the back and the front. Once you manage to split that, this box just slide out. Once this is out, take note of this wire. This wire is part of your safety system of your roof. If you do not plug this back in, your roof will not work.
Okay, so that's showing this one, which we'd already separated in the car. We have another one that's outside, so we'll show you how to separate these and what will need to be done with that piece. Okay, so this is that box that we have out from a different car, and we'll show you how the separation works. So if you look on the outside over here, you can see there's several clips that will need to be pushed in order to separate the two pieces. So coming from the inside, what we ended up doing,
we found to first unclip that to go back into the trunk. What I've done with this, there's the hole there. I've pushed it in like that and just released it at that. When I released it like that, it gave enough there to start to separate them. And then slowly just released it all the way around until it got out.
Yeah, so you can do that, and you can use a second screwdriver. So once you get it started to release, you push a second one in just to hold your position.
If you push a second plastic one on and you just tap it like that, and tap it like that, it comes out pretty easy.
Okay, so our next step is the steel frame. It has several 10 millimeter bolts on there. So you have one on this side, back on that side. There's another bolt. There's another one there. This one's missing, so the previous people never put that back. But all of these will need to be removed so we can take off the steel plate. Alright, so now we have removed all of these 10 millimeter bolts, and next we can take off the steel piece. This gives you access to your seat belt. So this is the one we're replacing. Now we get a top view of what that looks like and the bolts that need to be removed in order to replace that seat belt. So we can see there's this one bolt on that side immediately, and we'll see if there are any others that need to be removed as well. So this rear seat belt has two bolts. There's this one on the top side, and then there's one which sits behind the plastic that we removed. It's this guy right there. So you can see that bolt over there, that is a Torx, I believe it's a T30. So that will need to be removed along with this bolt on the top to remove that seatbelt tensioner assembly. Okay, so we have taken out the bolt up at the top, and we've taken out that T30 down there. Now there is a plug. We'll show you where it is when we pull the whole assembly out, but you need to unplug that. Again, be gentle with it so that you can remove the assembly. So you can see that purple part right over there. That is where that green plug plugs in. So you have to remove that plug in order to take out that seatbelt assembly. Then putting it back in is all these steps in the reverse. You'll have to put in the new assembly, put the plug, and replace the bolts. So my dad has been doing all this work on the Volvo because he got one where it had engine trouble but the transmission was good, and then he got this one that was in a bit of a wreck where the engine was fine, so he could take the engine from this one and mix it with the other one's transmission. This one also had the premier sound system and a lot of the parts that he needed, so it was a lot cheaper to get this car and build everything over onto the one in the workshop as a good and finished unit. So that's kind of what stemmed everything. These are fairly inexpensive to pick up used like this. If you're willing to do the work, you can get it done, but that's where we've got all the parts to build over onto the other one. So not a bad idea to do that. And like I said, that's part of the premier sound system and some of the other little features that this one had as a higher end model that we're now building over onto the other one.